So, April, thank you so much for joining us today on the Brilliant Life Show. We are so excited to have you on board. I am a big time fan of yours, and I love your podcast. And um, you showed up, I think, in my Instagram feed one day, like about 6 months or a year ago, and I just love everything that you're doing. So, you guys, let me share with you a little bit about April. April Beach is a lifestyle business expert for women who want to defy the status quo, build unconventional companies, and live life on their terms around their family. She is also an author, speaker, business development strategist, online business pioneer, and has carved her niche as the go-to expert to design your online business around family. April learned how to design businesses for family freedom early on. She's the daughter of the first wave of lifestyle entrepreneurs and has since coached thousands of women to successfully launch and scale their businesses for over 23 years. She's also the host of the top-rated Sweet Life Entrepreneur podcast, mom of 3 boys, and just celebrated her 21st wedding anniversary with her husband. So April, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
April, why don't you just share with us a little bit with our listeners what you do and how long you've been doing it, and just a little bit about your story, how you got to where you are now.
Sure. Yeah. So, of course, like all of us, what I do now was totally different than what I initially started out doing, and
Yeah.
I've grown into where I am and in the businesses that I have right now. Currently today, so at the recording of this, December 2018, I own 2 companies, and I am the host of the Sweet Life Entrepreneur podcast. And my area of expertise, my zone of genius, is helping women take their ideas and turn them into products and services and programs and offers, and really what I call like their signature offer, their zone of genius, and then teaching them how to design and launch and scale their business with those offers to give lifestyle freedom. So in a nutshell, if people ask me, the boring answer is I'm a business coach for women. The fun answer is I help women turn their thoughts into reality and really design and develop their businesses for the lifestyle that they want to live.
That's awesome. That's great. And Rachel, just so our listeners know, how old are your boys now?
Yep. So my boys are Timothy is 17, Jacob is 15, and Samuel's 13.
Okay, fantastic.
And they're
Okay.
always in our business. Like on my podcast, I'm always talking about my boys. So everybody knows always what's going on with them and what they're doing, and kind of my mom things I deal with on a business side, as well as, the actual momming so hard part of it.
Yes. And your husband, do you guys do these businesses together, or does he have a separate career?
Great question. So no, I exclusively own my companies. My husband is also an entrepreneur now. So he owns 2 companies as well. And he became an entrepreneur in 2014. His background was corporate restaurant development. And so moving him into entrepreneurship, there's always really funny stories about, how I had worked from home for so long. And my husband used to come home and say, why isn't the kitchen clean, or why, why isn't dinner ready or whatever. I'm like, oh, buddy, you try it. Right. And so it was so funny. So when he first quit his job, this is total tangent, but I think your listeners would appreciate this.
Yes.
When he first quit his job, he was like, okay, now I'm working from home. There will never be dirty dishes in the sink. There will never be, laundry. I'm going to keep up on laundry, and it was so funny, like watching him for the first 3 weeks, like try to prove himself right. And finally after 3 weeks, he's like, okay, I get it now. Yeah, I give up. Right. This is crazy. This is not going to happen. So he worked from home for a little bit, but now he owns a couple of businesses here in Boulder, Colorado, and a big entrepreneur actual ecosystem. So he's in business development as well.
Wow, that's fantastic. How fun. Okay, that's great.
Super fun.
Awesome. So, April, we had talked a little bit before the show, and you have this thing called a entrepreneur roadmap. Yes. And I would love for you to kind of share your philosophy behind that, and then just share with our listeners how that can benefit them. Yeah.
Yeah, I love teaching it. It's called the Lifestyle Entrepreneur Roadmap. And let's kind of talk about the origin a little bit and why this is important. So I have been coaching businesses for now 23 years. And
Yes.
what I've seen over the process of what I've gone through in my own business is there's different stages and there's just different phases of where we are. And there's actually 5 phases that I've outlined in the Lifestyle Entrepreneur Roadmap. But the reason why we need this is because we need to know what phase we're in. So new entrepreneurs, there's always so many ideas. There's so much to do. There's so many what people call shiny objects. And it's incredibly important to be where we are and to develop based on the stage that we're in order to have an opportunity to get to that next stage of business development. And once you understand where you are in this roadmap, this start to finish or start to really lifestyle roadmap, then you know exactly what you should be working on. You know exactly what pitfalls that you could face and how to get through them. And it gives you almost like this permission to be where you are so that you can focus and get through it faster. So this is how I came about this is kind of, it was a really cool thing. And I know that you have believers that listen to your show, so I can share this. And I share this on other shows anyway, and they think I'm totally nuts because there's so much woo woo and, things with online business. It's crazy. But, I had developed multiple companies of my own. And I've gone through these kind of processes and these steps. And then also I am like probably you are and a lot of your listeners, I really wanted to do bigger things besides my companies. I really wanted to give back. And so I'm also an environmental nonprofit founder. And I realized that there are certain sequential steps to go through that I had to learn to go through to get my company sustainable so I could start doing impact work, giving work, and other activism, environmental activism, which is in my case that I really wanted to do. And so I'd gone through kind of this process of development. And of course, along the same way, I'm coaching women through the process of designing their business and launching and scaling. And the women that gravitate to me are also the ones that really honestly want to make a lot of money not for money, for the sake of doing really cool things for their own family and in the world, honestly, giving a lot of money away or having the ability to give their time away. And so anyway, so I had gone through this kind of roadmap myself. And then I started coaching other clients through it, but I still didn't actually see it as a roadmap. And I was, in 2013, I was reading Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. And he was talking about the importance of having, systems and the importance of developing predictable pathways. And I was kind of thinking to myself, and a lot of times when I do professional development for myself, I will try to kind of combine that with a lot of prayer and worship and just like, okay, Lord, I could do 1,000 things. What should I be doing? What does this really look like?
Yeah.
And so it was one of those days where the house was all to myself and it was super quiet and I had worship music on and I was like, God, what is this? What is this? And it had been a really, developing these companies is never easy. And my walk had been actually really hard because the companies, I actually created an entirely new industry from scratch as well. And I just had to figure it out on my own. And I didn't want it to be so hard for other people.
Yeah.
So I was sitting there and I was going through and I was studying this book. And all of a sudden it was like a screen came down before me and it was like I saw these steps and it was laid out in a map and it was so clear and it was like, this is phase 1, this is the planning phase, this is phase 2, this is the launch phase, phase 3 is the scale phase, phase 4 is the freedom phase, and phase 5 is that impact phase. And then it was super clear to me. It was like everything just downloaded and it was like, this is exactly what you do here. And it had been what I'd already done multiple times in my own company, and I had already coached thousands of clients through these steps without even realizing it was a system. Right. And so it was so cool. And I was like, this is it. It's not something I'm like making money off of. I'm not selling like, it's like, this is my message. This is what I'm supposed to share with people. If they know where they are in this roadmap, they're going to know how to get where they want to be faster. And so that was really kind of the origin of it. So I love teaching it because with this process, once you understand where you are in this, and I will share a self-assessment where your people can take it. It's only like 5 quick questions where they can take and they can find out exactly where they are in this map. But then, a list of exactly what you should be working on to do it. This is how we design businesses, strategically design and develop businesses around our family and around our life.
Yeah.
So that's really kind of the history of it. So can I teach it real quick for
you?
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so phase 1 is actually prep. This is when you guys are in this place where you're thinking about launching your own business. Something has to change in your life. You're trying to quit a full-time job, or honestly, a lot of women that come to me, they have just taken maternity leave and they don't want to go back to work, and they're realizing that, they want their life to look different.
Yeah.
And so they're going through this process. And phase 1 is actually, it's a big business development phase, but a lot of people skip it over because we don't pay enough attention to it. But there are very specific things and decisions that need to be made, and a lot of heart work that needs to be done in phase 1. So in phase 1, it's like talking to your other children about the fact you're going to launch a business, talking to your husband about it, doing a lot of heart work, and really trying to focus on what it is that you believe. It's a hypothesis, it's going to be a guess, but what you believe is the first move that you're supposed to do. And really, it's like home life, family life, preparation, really kind of getting your ducks in a row. The caution I will say with phase 1, and somebody could be there for 5 hours and somebody could be there for 5 years. That's the problem. The caution I would say with phase 1 is that it's never going to be perfect. You are just going to have to go. And that's the thing. I'll have people come to me being like, okay, I'm in phase 1 and I got all this done and I meal plan every week. And, I have childcare and all these things. Like, you don't have to have any of that. I mean, I didn't have any childcare when I was launching my businesses, and I did it all on my own. And
nor did I.
Yeah. And so, so whatever works for your family, but that's phase 1. It is a phase. It needs to be addressed as a stage and given the attention that it deserves for making the choice.
Yeah.
And then phase 2 is business launch. Phase 2 is usually takes people about 12 to 18 months to actually thoroughly, correctly complete that phase. And the only thing we do in phase 2 is focus on launching your business. Now, usually in most cases, people have their business off the ground and their website launched in about 2 to 3 months. That part doesn't take that long. The way I teach business launches, we haven't actually successfully gotten your business off the ground until we've actually launched the website, launched the services, and they're in the market and we've tested them. And we know that you've hit what's called your MVP, your minimum viable product, or your minimum viable offer. It takes sometimes 12 to 15 months of testing and tweaking and traction and list building and list growth and all these other things to actually say, wow, I've launched. And I really consider that to be a good deal of time that for you to learn yourself, learn your audience, listen to your audience, get better at delivering your services. So that's about 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
Why businesses need to stay there. And I think you and I had kind of talked about this in email offline. There is incredible power in not scaling your business too fast. And I know it's so tempting to want to launch group coaches and online group coaching and online courses and membership sites and all these things. But the reality is you will actually, and I recorded a podcast with this, I think it was with John Lee Dumas a couple years ago on this, that you actually can grow your business and scale your business faster if you stay not scaled longer, because you get better at what you do faster. You see the systems, you see the methodology, and then you can put it into a process that you can scale. So we really recommend people do one thing really, really well. And that one thing could in fact be launching a retreat or launching or writing a book or, becoming a paid speaker. It could be something a little outside of the box, but we just have to make sure that you're getting traction in that area.
Right.
And then phase 3 is scale. This is when
can I ask you a question? So, for phase 1, I wanted to emphasize that I think it's so important, especially if you're a really ambitious woman, to just jump into it. I think I have done this a few times over different businesses, and to discount the importance of doing what April has said in phase 1 of like talking with your partner, talking with your kids and preparing your home life, and just like some of us can be so fast to move, and it's almost like you leave your family and loved ones behind and they're in a daze, and then it can make things really rough. So I
Totally
appreciate,
true.
I wish someone had like broken it down that clearly for me a few years ago. And then phase two, I think, is encouraging because it sounds like you might be profitable in phase two, but you might not, if correct me if I'm wrong, you might not be profitable in phase two. And that doesn't mean that you're failing necessarily. And it also doesn't mean that you should maybe try to go like big guns, whatever you can scale to become profitable. Because in the long run of the business, you might be shooting yourself in the foot. Is that right?
Yeah. So, understanding that your minimum viable product is successful is different for every business. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have had to recuperate all your company investment and actually, be in the black. That doesn't mean that. There are different ways to test. How we test whether or not what you're doing is right and you're on to something and you're good at it and you're getting people results is actually putting it in the marketplace. So there's a bunch of different ways. How are people responding to you and your message that you're sharing online? What are the actual tangible results that people are getting from, after they work with you? Are you in fact giving them the results that you promised that you were getting them, or how can you be better at that? And so it's really helping you be amazing. As soon as you know, whether it's 3 clients or 300 clients, as soon as you know, hey, this is working, people love it, I love it, they love it, everybody loves it, yay, then it's like, okay, now let's go ahead and talk about scaling. And,
Okay.
it usually takes, I want everybody to hit their minimum viable product, but part of the testing and traction could certainly be that, hey, you know what? Maybe nobody wants to work with you one-on-one. Maybe we do need to change it into a virtual consulting, or maybe we should change the business model of what you're offering into a weekend retreat, or maybe we should build it into an online course. And so those are part of the decisions that are made during that process. But it's basically giving you an opportunity to stay focused and to hit a couple of different things. And this is actually what I teach in my business launch program. It is going through the thing of making sure that your lead magnet is working, your funnel is working, you have the right ideal client, your one offer, what I call your signature offer or your foundational offer, is getting traction, and you do those things for a year. And you focus on doing them right, and whatever, I don't care what we need to do to change them, we'll fix them, we'll make them work. And it's staying there long enough to make sure it's working, because so many people just jump and jump and jump, like you were saying, oh my gosh, I haven't sold any of this, and all of a sudden, but we have to say, okay, well, is it your marketing? Is it your lead magnet? Is it your messaging? Is it actually, should we actually totally, throw the baby out with the bathwater and dump the whole offer? No, let's go ahead and look, and how's your online presence doing? How's your funnel? Do we have the right ideal clients? That's one of the things that's super fun about phase two, is that a lot of companies launch, and a lot of women, we launch and we think that we know who's going to gravitate towards us. And then all of a sudden it's this other group of people, and you're like, hey, where'd you come from? And it's just paying attention to who actually is in fact connecting with you.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. So, it can be a different time for everybody, but the key is not to rush through it, to pay attention, and to learn through those honestly beautiful mistakes. You're going to fail a bunch of times. We want to fail the most in phase two, because that's when it's okay. It's always okay to fail, but that's when that's when it's expected. That's when we learn the biggest lessons. And those lessons are the big ones to learn right away, so that the lessons they're littler and littler, down the road.
Yeah.
And so then when it's time to scale, that's phase three, and scaling looks different for every single business. And so, so when you guys go through and take the assessment where you are, if you land in phase three, you're going to get actually like a whole bunch of little different roadmaps. So within phase three, some people launch courses. That's one direction. Some people launch membership sites. That's another. The combination of the two is another. Some people choose speaking. Some people choose podcasting. Some people choose to do events or retreats or group coaching, or really build a big, huge signature offer, where that makes them known and leads in their space and leads in their niche, and just really makes that company like the end all be all of whatever it is that your zone of genius is. And so that's phase 3. Phase 3 is also growing your team, developing more systems, making sure the admin in the back end is good, learning to be a good leader and a good delegator. That's really hard for me. I have a great team of 6 women that have worked for me for years, but it's because they're great women. Honestly, it's not because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not inherently a good leader at all. Like, I'm not great to work for. And so that's like always been a struggle of, taking the time to pay attention to what I really want so I can delegate it well. So it's learning all these things that we're good at and so many things that we're terrible at, is all phase 3. Creating more forms of income, more streams of income into the business, and really getting traction to becoming known in your space.
Yeah.
And one of the things people need to know is that you'll stay in phase 3. I have clients who have been in business for now 15 years who have never gotten out of phase 3, and that's fine. You can stop here. You don't have to take the whole map. It's where you're constantly developing and growing and making more money and more money and more money. Phase 3 is where you need to be, and you have to stay there really until you hit that financial threshold that you've set for yourself. In most cases, it's like 3 years to 5 years.
Yeah.
And so this is not like an instant overnight map, and no life that we're building happens overnight. And so it's important that people understand.
Yes.
And then once you've hit that, and if you choose to move on, like people like me want to, phase 4 is really freedom. And that's where we have really built a business that gives you as the entrepreneur an opportunity to do all the other things that you've wanted to do, but maybe didn't necessarily fit into it. So this, and this is not like the Bible, right? Like, it can be you can do anything in any order, right?
Sure.
But usually this is like writing a book, or again, we'll see people launch a podcast, or they will start, doing kind of different passion projects. This is also when we see entrepreneurs have a new idea that spun off of their current business idea, and they will actually then go back to the beginning and create a secondary brand.
Yes.
And so I'll have clients that they're in one kind of phase with one business, and then we're back at the beginning building something totally new, like an off brand or a spin brand. So that, you could be at 2 different places with your company in this process. And in phase 4 is that true 20-hour work week. Your company is sustainable. Your team is managing all your things. You've hit the financial benchmarks. And of course, you can work only 20 hours a week like I did back in phase 2 and 3, but it's going to take you obviously a lot longer to get there.
Sure. Yeah.
And phase 4 is just that real true 20-hour work week business model, and making sure that your business is rolling like you want it to, and you're free to spend time with your kids more, to travel more, to do those passion projects. And then phase 5 is not for everybody. Phase 5 is for those people like me that just really, really love to make a greater impact. Honestly, that has absolutely nothing to do with our business in a lot of cases. And so phase 5 is making sure that your company is freeing your time and freeing your money so you can do other activism type work. This is, where I launched my environmental nonprofit. I have a lot of clients that do other passion projects. So for example, like they're foster parents, and they're able to do more things that they're really passionate about because of the fact that they have built their company up to do this. This is also where we make sure, if they were not built originally into your business model, that we are building what's called for-profit entrepreneurs, for-profit social entrepreneurs. So that means it's not a nonprofit business, but your business is a for-profit business that gives money away. And that's the direction that everybody's going. And that's a direction like that. That's what our business does too. So we, there's always like a program that the proceeds are donated to something, or there's a percentage of giving that's actually built into your business model. And so that's really what phase 5 is. So again, phase 1 is planning, phase 2 is launch, phase 3 is scale, phase 4 is that freedom, and then phase 5 is impact.
That's awesome. Guys, that is, love it. I love it. So April, tell us, how important is it once our listeners get a hold of, like actually are looking at the roadmap, do you feel like it's important when you're in, say, phase 1 or phase 2 to know what you want your phase 4 and phase 5 to look like? Um,
Yeah,
like,
I'm glad. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm glad that you asked that. Um, I'm a big advocate and I actually teach reverse engineering our
Hmm.
life. So when I
Yes.
work with private clients, we actually lay out all 5 phases of that and we lay out what they want their life to look like 5 years. And sometimes some clients go to 10 years and then we reverse engineer the business model back to exactly what they need to work on the first 12 months that aligns with that. So I do. The only caution is to not start working on the activities within those other phases until you're ready for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
love that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really also super helpful because if you take the I for some people it can be very motivating, like myself, to know we have a long-term vision to be able to fund causes that my husband and I are super passionate about, and just to know, okay, that's coming, but not to feel any negative well, I try not to, I have to reframe my thoughts sometimes, like we will get there, that's in the timeline, but it's okay that we are not there yet. If we are only in, phase 2 or phase 3, it's okay that you're
Mm-hmm.
not in phase 5 yet, but you still have that motivation from that clarity of vision. Like one day we're going to be writing these checks to these organizations that we're super passionate about. And so I love that. Okay. So, and then April, so you have the 5 phases, and I'll include in the show notes, and at the end you can tell people where you can find that. We talked a little bit about before we started recording, like different phases of business depending on kind of like phases of your family. I think this is not to confuse our listeners, a different type of, this is not the same as the 5 phases of the roadmap. But could you just briefly maybe share with our listeners, like, um, how you and your husband have navigated as your children, now they're a little bit older, the different phases of your businesses, and just thoughts around that?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. So, when I launched my first company, my 3 boys were under age 5. I think Timothy had just turned 5, and Sam was only 6 months old. And I had no childcare and I had no help. And I had been planning this development when I was pregnant with Sam, but it was really, really hard. And my husband was in the restaurant business, which those of you guys who know that means he was never ever home and never home on weekends.
Yeah.
So, and we have no family here in Colorado. So, I mean, it was like literally just me. And so the business that I launched then, um, it was a service-based business, and it was actually, that was when I was creating. So I'm one of the founders of the parent coaching industry. So the company that I was launching then was actually a baby planning company. And I learned very, very quickly that I couldn't go into people's homes and actually work with them and coach them, if you will. But I had actually this was a new venture for me, because I had already been a business coach for a very long period of time when I decided to launch this new business. And I learned very quickly that not only did that business model not work for me, but I was also a business coach. I never should have been a parent coach. That just wasn't a good thing for me. So immediately I tried to look at what that looked like during that phase. I couldn't leave the house. I didn't have the opportunity to build my business the way it did. And so I immediately kind of really relooked at that business model. I was like, okay, what can I do? And so I started selling licenses to my trademark, and I expanded my company to offices in 7 states in the first 15 months. So I did that because I'm a business developer. I developed the whole entire protocol for that, and just was able to kind of take a
Wow.
look at what was happening with what my capabilities were, and honestly kind of what my strength was. My strength
Yeah.
was much more handing somebody basically like a business in a box than it was actually
Mm.
going in and working with families one-on-one. And so that was just the option that I chose. In addition to that, I also launched, like at the same time, I also launched my online courses. So this was back before online courses were even a thing. This was back in 2008. And it was crazy, you guys. It was like duct taping things together. I think I had like Cisco WebEx meeting, and we had no email marketing. You couldn't even like record a video like we are now. It seems like back in the good old days. I mean, this is only 11 years ago, you guys.
Right.
But like I had to like send my files to some foreign thing. I was sure I was going to get my computer virus to convert it into an MP4. It was crazy. But I did. So I realized very quickly that that I could bring value to people through, teaching them online, and that they want to do that. And so that's when I started launching the online courses and really expanding my business coaching services. And I share that, I've listened to your trailer and I've listened to your show, and I love your show. And so we talk about online business a lot. And you guys, I will tell you that with little babies at home, online business is for sure number one, the business model you want to go with. I'll say that in the last 2 years, so being in online business now for so long, in the last 2 years, we are seeing a wave of change where consumers are more comfortable buying online, but it's very hard to sell online services and online courses online like it was in 2013, 14, 15. All of a sudden in 2016, everybody decided to launch online courses, and now we're seeing this oversaturation. So what we're seeing now is that people still want them, but they really want to know who you are. So with little kids in this phase, where you are, and I'll say little kids from, birth and pregnancy through elementary school, that this is a really great opportunity to still develop your online coaching and services. But it's really important that you guys, as soon as you're able to, have local connections, have local marketing, have local support, local networking, local business partnerships, because that's how we're seeing online businesses become really successful. It's almost like a hybrid marketing approach between local and then it extends to online. And so that's really what I recommend for that first kind of phase of parent entrepreneurship. The funny thing is like, I still remember thinking, like, as soon as my kids are in preschool, I'm going to have so much more time. And as soon as my kids are in elementary school, I get, 9 to 3. And then, as soon as my kids can drive, which now, one of them can drive, I'm going to have so much more time. And what I want to say is that your business model will change with your growth, in your children's growth, and your family's growth. And that is so amazing. But now that my boys are older, what I will say is that I always thought that they would need me less, and they definitely need me more. But it's like the questions there. So when they were little, and this is what my husband and I speak to a lot, when they were little, it was like, you need me to feed you and wipe you and put you to bed and, all these things. But then as they get older, it's questions that I only want to make sure I'm answering. It's being like, what about girls, and what about drugs, and what about all these other things? And so that my attention needs to be even more, like, I actually used to be able to multitask and change a diaper on a conference call. Now, when I'm with my boys, I have to consciously stop. And so my business model is not a multitasking business model anymore. It's one where I have to block out my days, so I make sure that my time is 100% present, because otherwise I'm scattered everywhere. And so that's kind of usually how we have gone through developing in our companies, but it's just different what our kids need is versus what I thought that they would need.
Yes. Yeah. I thank you for sharing that, April. That's encouraging for me to hear. I remember years ago, I think I'd just become a stay-at-home mom. So this was 8 years ago. I read an article from some woman who was proposing that it might be more valuable and important to consider staying at home when your kids are in high school versus when they're babies and in preschool. And because the reality is, like you can kind of hire anybody to like wipe their bottoms and that type of thing. But as they get older, that value transfer is, like, I want to be the one answering the questions about all the stuff. So,
and who they are in middle school. Middle school is terrible. Middle school is so awful for them. And middle school is so hard, because they're like trying to learn who they are and what they stand for, and being strong in that against other things, and what makes them happy, and what they agree with and what they don't agree with, independent from us. So middle school is this huge growth time. And I think that has been, it was immediately when I think my middle son got into middle school where I was like, whoa, okay, I can't multitask this anymore.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's okay. That's awesome. Okay. Well, April, I know you need to go. I just wanted to ask one clarifying question because I know a lot of, I thank you for saying, because this is my belief as well, that if you're a mom with little kids at home, like online business model is the way to go. I think a lot of people have concerns that the market is becoming oversaturated. So can you clarify or maybe give an example what you were saying, partnering with local businesses?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, real quick, you guys, I am a firm believer that speaking is the best way to grow your business and to connect with your audience. Whether you are going in and speaking to a local business, whether you are teaching a class at a local retailer, whether you're speaking to a mom's group, whatever it is, I believe that speaking is the best
Yes.
way to grow your business. And by the way, it's free. And Facebook ads, it's really hard to get Instagram traction. I mean, there's just so many other things that are very time consuming. Not saying that you shouldn't do those things. And so the way that, especially in the last 2 years, that we're encouraging our clients to really build their business is by looking for local opportunities to make great, amazing connections where you can pour into other people, but then it also establishes your expertise and finding those opportunities. And, mutually beneficial partnerships could be like partnering with a local retailer. So I was just actually speaking to a client this morning and kind of setting up her marketing plan to do this, where she has classes. And so it's really beneficial to have some sort of outline of a class or a talk. And she's going in Houston to teach to teach classes at a local boutique, but it's also establishing her as the expert in the boutique because she's a new business. So she doesn't have a
Right.
list yet. And so, but the store has a list and they have a list of her exact ideal clients. And so the store promotes her coming in and teaching classes, which the store loves because they sell more product in her list. I
Yes.
mean, these are mutually beneficial business relationships. Now, her primary business model is virtual consulting. So she might go in and teach a class here or there or speak at an event, but how she provides services isn't one-on-one. She's an online coach. And that's
Yes.
great because the reality is that none of us want to have to deal with, cleaning our house or driving across town to meet with somebody else. We all want, support, virtually because that's convenient. So that's one really good example. So I just want to encourage you guys to not overlook the power of relationships, the power of networking, the power of mutually beneficial local partnerships for the purpose of growing your online business or sharing and getting people enrolled in your course or selling a weekend retreat or a membership community,
Yeah.
whatever that is. And that's really where we're seeing the most traction because there is so much saturation in the marketplace. We are going back to who we trust, who we know, relationships with people, and even doing something like that and having a friend share, somebody else shares it on Facebook, seeing that you were their local, and then you might have an online business. It's kind of like this weird kind of celebrity status to like, oh, Sally was here locally talking and she's this online business person too. So
Yes. Yes.
there's some different really tangible, important ways, but nothing, I will tell you guys, especially in the last 2 years, nothing, it doesn't matter how much money you would throw at a Facebook ad, nothing can compare with the conversion that we see when you are face to face with somebody or when you have an opportunity to pour into your local community to build your online business.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. That makes sense to me. And I have experienced this myself. I don't know, April, if you know, but I'm the co-founder of a Montessori preschool in DC, and I have one in my house. And so for our listeners, I've gone around to a bunch of different moms clubs and spoken locally. I joined our local MOPS group this year. I mean, it was like I just really wanted to hang out with other moms, but it also, I have gotten clients through those engagements that what April is saying is 100% true. So I love that. Well,
Yeah.
April, is there anything else that you want to add?
Well, I should tell everybody how to take the quiz. So I'll tell you
Yes,
guys
please
that.
do.
It's just a 5-question self-assessment, and you'll get a whole list of what you should be working on in your roadmap based on your phase. So if you guys are texters, you can actually text the number 31996. So that's actually the phone number you text it to. And then you text the word Sweet Life, and that's one word, all lowercase, swished together. So again, that number is 31996, and the word is Sweet Life, one word. Or you guys can cruise to sweetlifeco.com/quiz. So that's also where you'll find my podcast. The Sweet Life Entrepreneur podcast is just business trainings and strategies that for people like us.
Yeah. And I encourage you guys I've taken her quiz and the roadmap is fantastic. I'm a huge fan of her podcast. And then real quick, April, you have a vlog as well.
Yes, that's right. Thanks for asking about that. So, so we have a family vlog because it's really messy behind the scenes, and I was sick and tired of people looking at Instagram and thinking it's perfect.
Yeah.
And so we have a family vlog. It's called Burn the Picket Fence, and you guys can go visit burnthepicketfence.com, and it is literally behind the scenes of a lifestyle entrepreneur family. I think in the first episode, so Timothy, actually, my oldest son, is the one that does all the editing and the production of the vlog. He also he also wrote and recorded the music because he's a guitar player for it. And so it's kind of like this family collab. But in the first one, I'm like, the first episode, I think like at one point in time, I committed, I was going to show you guys totally behind the scenes. And then I got a phone call from somebody about my youngest who has really severe food allergies. And I'm like crying on the vlog, but then I had to go back in like 15 minutes later, and I was interviewing some like really high profile podcast guest, and my eyes were like swollen. And then so I just recorded. I'm like, look at this is how life. To go from mom to work to mom to work to mom to work. And so yeah, you guys can see the mess that is behind the scenes.
Yeah.
If you want to visit burnthepicketfence.com.
Yes. Awesome. I love that. All right. Well, thank you so much, April. We so appreciate the wisdom that you shared. Thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. I will. Thanks.
All right. Take care. Bye now.
Bye.